Hi everyone, welcome to my channel or welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to do a really quick video talking about how I travel with Kesimpta. I did a video on my channel a few weeks ago talking about like a 6-month update on Kesimpta, which is, for everyone who doesn't know, a DMT to manage multiple sclerosis, which is a disease, like an autoimmune disease that I have. I take Kesimpta, which is just like a vial, like an injection in a pen. And I recently travelled from England to Australia with 3 months worth of Kesimpta, which is 3 pens because you take one a month. And I had a few questions and also some comments on the last video just talking about how I managed to travel with it and what flask I used, if I could have the link for the flask. So I thought I would create a video on how I did it, because I know before I travelled it was really stressful figuring out how I was going to travel halfway across the world with 3 months worth of medication that needs to be refrigerated at all times, but I managed to figure it out and I found a really good flask and good tools to do it with, so I thought I would share that in a video. So the first thing that I did to get prepared for the flight was to make sure that I had all of my documents ready, and so I printed out my prescription letter for the drugs that I was taking, so the 3 months worth of Kesimpta. I printed out the prescription for that. I then printed out a diagnosis letter so that I can kind of prove why I'm taking the Kesimpta, and then I also got my nurse to write me out a letter or an email with all of the details in, why I was prescribed this drug and how long I've been on it, and etc, etc, just so if anyone needed any information I could give them all of them documents. So far I've travelled quite a few times on quite a few planes with the flask and with Kesimpta, and I haven't been asked for any documents, but you never know, someone could want to see all of them. I would imagine you would probably be asked to show them when you go into a country, so when you go to declare the medication. And when I came into Australia I obviously declared the 3 months worth of medication, and when I got to the border control they asked me if I had a prescription. I said yes, and they didn't ask to see it, they just let me go straight through. So it's handy to keep it on you, but I doubt you'll need it, or I doubt you'll need to show it or to prove it. And then the only other time I can think they would ask you for any documentation is when it goes through the security checker, what's it called, the x-ray machine. I personally don't let my Kesimpta go through the x-ray machine, and I've never found this information again. I can't remember if I just read that somewhere or if I made up that fact that it's not allowed to go through the x-ray machine, but I don't let it go through just to be on the safe side of things. Maybe it just hasn't been tested before, I'm not sure, but I remember hearing it from somewhere and I haven't ever put it through the x-ray machine. So I always just ask the person who's doing the baskets, there's always someone like controlling the x-ray machine, if they can just put it through manually, and they always do, and they just make me take it. They don't do too much, they just make me take off the lid, take out the injection pens. Usually they just ask to see inside the flask, and then yeah, they've never had any follow-up questions after that, and never asked to see documentation either. So now how I keep it cold. My injection needs to be kept between 2 and 8 degrees constantly. It needs to always be in the fridge until you go to inject it. So obviously traveling with it is quite scary because obviously there's no fridges readily available on flights, and so the flask that I use came in really handy. I ordered it from Amazon, and I think they have their own website that ships worldwide as well, and it's just really handy. It was about £60, which is about 120 Aussie dollars, and it was an investment worth making because it really alleviated all of the stress. When I first told the Kesimpta people that I was travelling, they actually did send me like a travel kit. This was over in Australia, they sent this. It's just like a bag they sent over that lets you keep the Kesimpta in the original packaging, because with the flask that I use you have to take the Kesimpta out of the packaging and then just put in the pens, which some people I guess wouldn't want to do because it's recommended that you keep it in the packaging at all times so it's not exposed to light. When you use the bag that they send, it just has 2 ice packs at the top and the bottom, and then you put the Kesimpta in the middle and it keeps it cool. But for me there just wasn't enough information around how long it would stay cold, and the flight that I did as well was really long. It was like 29 or 30 hours I think to travel from the UK, like all in all, like from leaving my house to getting to the house in Australia. It was a really long travel day. So because it was such a long travel day I just wanted to have something that I knew would last a long time, and yeah, then I found this flask on Amazon, and like I said it was about £60 I think, anyway I can't quite remember, and it's by the brand Dyson Care, which I've never heard of before, but it works really well for me and I really like it. This is the large size. I think it's called the large insulin and medication cooler, and they have a medium or like a small size one, but I think that would only hold 1 pen, and this one holds 3 pens. So it's really handy because obviously on Kesimpta you take 1 injection a month, and so having 3 pens means that you can travel with 3 months worth of medication. And I'm pretty sure in a lot of countries you're only allowed to take 90 days worth of medication with you anyway, so it's super handy and you wouldn't need it any bigger than this. So it's just literally just like a thermos, and it just comes with a thermometer and a blue ice pack that's like rounded at the bottom. And then it also comes with a white like emergency ice pack that's completely empty. You just put this in the freezer like 6 to 8 hours before you leave, so either overnight or in the morning if you're leaving in the evening. And then before you go, you take the pens out of the packaging, out of the fridge, and you put them in the flask. You put the blue ice pack in, put the thermometer in, and then you're good to go. And it stays cool. It stays between 2 to 8 degrees for up to 35 hours. And then if your travel day gets delayed or you need a bit longer, you can then take out the blue ice cooler, fill up the white one with ice cold water, and it gives you 14 extra hours to keep it cool between 2 and 8 degrees. And I think it lasts up to 72 hours, but then the temperature does go up a bit, and with my injection it needs to stay between 2 and 8 degrees. So if yours can go a bit longer, then you've got a lot more flexibility, but personally mine can't. So yeah, it's a really good cooler. I really love it, and it's just very simple. It also has a QR code on the front, which is so handy, and it just means if you lose it or someone else picks it up by accident, they can just scan that, and then all of your details are on there. So it has your name, your email, your number, and then you can leave a little note. So if you're at a specific airport, you can just let them know where you are or where your gate is, just in case someone picks it up. But personally, this does not leave my hand from the moment I pick it up to the moment I put it back in the fridge when I get to my destination, because yeah, I don't want to drop it. I don't want to do anything to like affect the medication inside it. One thing I do is I just put bubble wrap on the top. So I put the Kesimpta pens in, the thermometer in, and the ice pack in, put the bubble wrap on top so that it stops it from just like moving around or jiggling loads. Obviously don't want to accidentally drop it and then the Kesimpta flies against the outside and breaks or whatever. So yeah, I just put some bubble wrap on top to protect it. Before I did my first flight with this, I did do a few test runs without the Kesimpta in it, just overnight, to make sure that it did stay cool, so that I didn't have to then keep checking it when I was traveling. And when I did, I think I checked it at all the security checkpoints, just because obviously they would make me get it out anyway, so I would always just check the thermometer. And then yeah, I would say maybe every like 10 or 15 hours I checked it just to make sure that it was keeping cool, and it always was. It always stayed between 2 and 8 degrees, which was perfect. One thing I would say though, on one of my last flights, I actually took my thermometer away. I had to buy a new one because you're not allowed mercury on a flight, which I didn't know. And so the man asked me if my thermometer had mercury in it, and I didn't know why he was asking that. And so I was like, I don't know, maybe, I'm not sure. And then he took the thermometer away, which was fair enough because you're not allowed mercury on a flight. So I bought a new one. So just, I'm pretty sure the one that they give you with the flask doesn't have mercury in it anyway. So just make sure that if you do get questioned on that, you have the like web page to show them that it doesn't have mercury in it, so that you are allowed it on flights, because it's like made for TSA, it's TSA approved. So I would assume that the thermometer didn't have mercury in it, but I just answered the question wrong. So the man just took precautions, which was completely fair enough. And then once I get on the plane, I usually try and keep this wrapped in ice. And so I always ask before I get on a plane if I can put my Kesimpta in the fridge, and they always say no. They haven't said yes yet, which is completely fair enough, because if they said yes, then it would like be their responsibility technically to keep it at a certain temperature, and obviously the airlines don't want to take that responsibility on, which makes complete sense. So they always say no, and then I always ask for a bag of ice instead. And so they usually give me a bag of ice, and then I can just put it in there to make sure that the outside temperature stays cool and it doesn't go like below 2 degrees or 3 degrees or whatever. It just makes sure that, I don't know, just for peace of mind more for me, because if the plane gets really hot, or if like the sun's coming through the plane and it's going on the bottle or something, I'm not sure, it just gives me peace of mind knowing that it's wrapped in ice and it's going to stay as cool as possible. But yeah, I've travelled with this, it stayed at 2 degrees the whole time, and I just make sure whenever I get to my destination, even if we can't check into the Airbnb until later, or if we can't check into the hotel until a few hours, I always just go anyway, and I'm like, oh, I have medication, can I just put it in the fridge? I always say yes, because I don't think anyone would have a problem with that anyway, but in Airbnbs especially, they always just let me go in early, put it in the fridge, and then they just carry on cleaning, or in hotels, the same thing. So yeah, that's how I travel with my Kesimpta. It's really easy. I've done long haul flights, short haul flights, international, domestic flights, and it's been fine on every single one. It can be really nerve-wracking. It was really, really scary when I first traveled with it, because obviously you're basically traveling with you're traveling with medication that needs to be kept in the fridge without a fridge. You're literally just relying on this like thermos, but it does a really good job, and it really, really helped me. And now whenever I go pick up medication from the pharmacy, I get mine delivered now, but when I used to go pick it up from the pharmacy, or if I'm going just on like an overnight trip or something, just having this makes things so much easier. It means I don't have to plan my life around my Kesimpta dates anymore. I'll leave the link to this in the description below if anyone wants to buy it. It's really, really great. I'd really recommend it. And yeah, it really helped me out. So that's how I travel with my Kesimpta, to keep it cool and good for like up to 35 hours, and it helped alleviate some stress around traveling, because yeah, traveling with MS is stressful enough already. You don't need to add in another factor with your medication. So yeah, I hope this video was helpful for someone, and I will see you next time.